Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm your host, Ryan King. Today, we're with Dr. John Ogrodniczuk, and we're going to talk about mental health and a whole bunch of other topics. Welcome to the hall. Hey, Dr. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
So all morning, I've referred to you as John.
Which is perfectly fine because that's my name.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. I thought about the doctor thing. I thought, man, that wasn't very kind of me.
No, I don't get fussed about that.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great day out there and it's Friday. I can't wait to get on my bike sometime this weekend.
Yeah. Where do you ride mostly?
I do. I live out at UBC, so I go through Pacific Spirit Park a lot, and
Nice.
then my wife and I just get on our bikes and ride around town. Yeah.
My like it's not a phobia, but like when I'm like downtown Vancouver, I'm like that ding ding ding. Like I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking in the bike lane, right? It's like everywhere is a bike lane, and for whatever reason, I'm like the person in the mall that's walking aimlessly, but I'm always in a bike lane. It seems I'm like, like you get ran over.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about Heads Up Guys. We're gonna get there, but let's start about like where you grew up. Like, are you local BC?
I was born in Kamloops, lived the first couple of years of my life in Clearwater, but I actually grew up in Alberta and lots of little towns all across the province, but spent most of my time in a little town called Rimbey, Alberta.
Rimbey, yeah.
Yeah.
I lived in Alberta for a
did
little
you?
bit. Yeah, I lived in southern Alberta,
Oh, okay.
but it's got its own beauty there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It'd be nice to have a few more trees down there, but
Yeah. The one thing, like today, we got a beautiful sunny day today. That's the one thing I miss about Alberta is the winter. It's just sunny.
yeah.
You know, it's cold, obviously, but
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed my time growing up there. I still miss playing hockey outside.
yeah.
That's one thing that I really missed from my childhood. But Vancouver is a pretty amazing place to live, and we've loved it ever since we arrived here.
Did you go to school in Alberta?
Yeah, I did all my primary education and secondary education in Alberta, and then came out to UBC to do a postdoc fellowship, and been here ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so where did you do most of that schooling? Was that at UBC or?
No, I did my schooling at Red Deer College, University of Calgary, University of Alberta, and then my fellowship was at UBC.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you've been there and just never left now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Been there, and we live on campus. Both my kids went to UBC, so that's
Nice.
It's worked out really well.
That's quite the community there, I
It
imagine.
sure is. Yeah, it's grown. We've been there almost 30 years now, and to see the changes that happen, it's been amazing.
So, like, at what point in your life did you decide, I'm going to go down this, this path of psychology, or like, what led to that?
Oh, I wish I had some profound story to share, but I don't. Honestly, when I was a little kid, I remember seeing a show. Oh, heck, I can't remember the name of it. Alan Thicke was the main character, and his character was a psychiatrist, and he worked from home. Growing pains.
Growing pains. Okay,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Growing pains. And he worked from home. And I remember being quite intrigued. And it's like, dude can just walk from his kitchen table to this office. He talks to people all day. It looks pretty good. And it's like, I wouldn't mind doing that. And so I had this idea in my head very early on that I wanted to do that. But I had no idea what that actually meant.
Yeah, what that looks like.
Yeah, and it took some time. I have to admit, I wasn't really clear in my head what I was supposed to do, wanting to do when I got to college, but I figured it out over time. Yeah, and it worked out well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you think about, whatever you're into school wise or whatever, you finish high school or whatever. That's such a small portion of your life.
Yeah.
And so you don't really have much to base, your decisions going forward. You just go forward. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into this, and then, through however many lefts or rights, you end up taking a path that leads you to where you are today.
Oh, totally. I would never in a million years imagined I would be where I am today. So, when doors open, you just jump through and trust yourself that it's going to work out.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, you just pivot and go through a different door, right?
Exactly.
So we were talking earlier about, like COVID and all these things and, things that come out of that. So what are some of the things you saw or some of the lessons learned coming through COVID and, with your work?
I think maybe one of the biggest sort of positive aspects of COVID, if you will, was that there was a lot more public discourse about mental health.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of people struggled for a variety of reasons through COVID. I think we all understand what those issues were related to finance, loneliness, being told what to do. That's, some of the things that we were told to do and to not do is pretty hard to take. People being confined in small places with people for very long periods of time, and if those relationships weren't very good, they tended to get worse. So there's a lot of stuff that people had to deal with, and the conversations, like I said, in media and even public health announcements, a lot of them had to do with mental health. So it sort of normed that kind of conversation. And then also with the adoption of digital technologies, it made mental health services like psychotherapy a lot more accessible. No longer did you have to drive somewhere to somebody's office to get therapy. You could do it through the computer, through Zoom and Skype and things like that.
I imagine there's probably an aspect of that where it's given the individual or the situation might be easier to do it, via Zoom or on the phone, as opposed to, like you say, like you physically got to take yourself to this place, walk through the door, talk to the receptionist or whatever the scenario is, and then you're going to sit in front of a stranger or somebody that you're meeting maybe for the first time, and you're going to tell them, whatever, right? That I think maybe that might be an easier conversation to have if you got a little bit of separation. You're sitting in the comfort of your own home, maybe, or whatever.
Absolutely. Right? Plus the efficiencies that you're referring to as well is like you can just schedule it for the hour rather than have to allocate time, travel there, find parking, wait in the waiting room, travel back. And so, I've had people call me from their construction work sites, their truck somewhere on the side of a road, their basement, their garage, out on a walk. It just is literally wherever you can get an internet signal, you can do therapy, with conditions around privacy. You don't want to do it at Starbucks or something, of course, but it just makes it a lot easier. And now I find that the vast majority of people actually prefer the efficiency of virtual therapy rather than coming in. I still personally prefer people when they are able to come in. I don't say you must, but because there are certain things when you're face to face in a room with somebody that can't be replicated through online. But nonetheless, it works pretty well.
Yeah, on the like the lines of accessibility too. Like, some people, given whatever situation, maybe they need to talk to somebody like now. Or today or whatever, where it's not like schedule or whatever, where if you're doing this kind of online kind of format, you can make yourself available more easily than if someone had to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Yeah, and to that point about accessibility, there's a lot of people that live in communities that the resources just aren't present. And so being able to, like if you're in Kitimat, for example, I could be seeing somebody there, and distance isn't an issue in that way.
I know when like the COVID thing, you talk about all the different things that came out of that, right? It's one of it, I think, was just that break where 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday, everyone has this kind of routine, right? It's like kids go to school, you go to work, you have all this, and you just that little bit of a pause in that for some people give him almost a little bit of like self-reflection, right? He just gave you a bit of a pause where you could kind of stop and look, and then it's like anything, right? It's if you can just take one step back and look at a situation, maybe you can see things that are there or that you maybe ignored or you were too busy to address or whatever, right? Because everyone just has their day-to-day lives, right? So definitely created that bit of a break in that.
Yeah, it definitely provided an opportunity for reflection. Could be good, it could be bad,
Yeah. Well.
because if you
Hmm.
reflect on things that you don't like and you wanted to change and needed help, it was difficult to find that
Yeah.
help. But you're absolutely right. And then on the other hand, human beings by and large are creatures of habit,
Hmm.
and when your routines are disrupted, it could be hard for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I'm a creature of habit too. And if I go certain places, coffee shop, restaurant, whatever, like even our restaurant here, if you go in there, chances are I'm sitting at the same table, right?
Absolutely.
It's just the way I am, right? I
Yeah.
recognize that in
Yeah.
myself. I sit in the same seat most of the time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, right? One less
Yeah.
thing to think about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, most of us are like that.
So let's get into Heads Up Guys.
Mhm.
So, um, where did that come from, and how did that kind of become a thing?
I think it was an evolution that was informed by a lot of different inputs. My psychotherapy practice, I've just generally had a lot of guys. It
Hmm.
wasn't by design or
Hmm.
intention. It's just not a lot of male therapists out there to begin with,
Hmm.
and just by way of what I do for my job, I think. It was a signal to a lot of guys that there is somebody out there
Hmm.
to help, and so when they were looking for a therapist, not every guy needs or wants a male therapist specifically, but a lot do, and so
Yep.
people seek me out. And then a colleague at UBC, John Olive, he and I, this is 15, 16 years ago now, we started Canada's first and I think still only men's mental health research program. So it really allowed us a great opportunity to dive deep
Hmm.
in the broad field of men's mental health and
Yep.
do a lot of learning outside of the sort of the experiential clinical learning that we were doing.
Yep.
And really, that work helped illuminate a lot of really big gaps
Yeah.
and related to service,
Yeah.
primarily is what I'm talking about. The epidemiological statistics related to some very stark aspects of men's health.
Hmm.
What tends to take men's lives the most, and when you see suicide
Hmm.
being up there, it's the second leading cause of death of men under the age of 50.
Yeah.
3/4 of suicide deaths every year in Canada are by men, and that really rattles your cage. And it's
Yeah.
like something's not working, something needs to change.
Yeah.
It's very clear that men either weren't availing themselves of the services that were out there already, or if they were, they weren't working,
Yeah.
or men simply weren't aware of where to look for that.
Hmm.
And so we said, well, we need to do something to connect with men
Yeah.
in a different way and hopefully a better way. We didn't quite know what that was, but then we
Yeah.
reflected on our own selves as guys and said,
Yeah.
okay, well, when things aren't working so well for us, we've got aches or pains, not feeling good in one
Hmm.
way or another, what do we tend to do?
Hmm.
Well, we go to Dr. Google and we start pumping in some of the
Yeah.
symptoms and trying to sort ourselves
Yeah.
out. And so we did that. And so we acted as if we were guys
Yeah.
struggling with anxiety or depression, different symptoms. And there really was nothing out there for guys. Lots of resources, and many of them are good,
Yep.
but nothing specifically orientated to men.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe we should be in that space for guys. Maybe we should have a
Yeah.
resource. This is about men. This is for men. And in
Yeah.
fact, that's kind of like our tagline
Yeah.
for Heads Up Guys. And so we developed this digital resource to try to speak to men as
Yeah.
men. And through this, we wanted to kind of normalize the fact that dudes do get depressed.
Yeah.
It's super common. And that's one of the things about mental health challenges like depression and anxiety. When you're in it, when you're experiencing it,
Hmm.
you feel like you're the only one.
Yeah.
You feel really, really isolated in that experience. And
Hmm.
guys tend to keep stuff to themselves.
Hmm.
People aren't going to understand. They won't get me. I'll be rejected. I'll be seen as weak or not
Yeah.
good enough. And so they hide it.
Yeah.
You hide it too long, things get worse.
Hmm.
And for a lot of guys, that ends up them thinking of death as the only possible way to escape their pain. So we said, we got to change that. And so just changing the language about how we talk about things like depression. And it's like, it's a part of life. People suffer in many different ways, and this is one of the ways. It's part of the normal human experience with, no matter who you are. And then, the aspect of, guys like to sort themselves out. And so rather than trying to fight against that, let's use that. Let's embrace that. Let's say, okay, we're going to upskill you in being able to look after your health in a better way, while at the same time messaging the importance of other people being there to support you as you do this. So whether it's friends, family, family doc, and very importantly, mental health professionals, it's about you building your support team. These aren't people that are just going to come and fix the broken you. It's like, no, you're totally in control here. You're the team captain. You bring the people that you want because they offer you something that you want and need to sort yourself out, if you will. And so that was really the genesis and the intention of what we developed.
Well, as men, and obviously like working in the trades and stuff, for one, we all rely on the bro science, right? Which if anything's going to steer you wrong, it's probably that, right? If you're talking amongst your peers and the blind leading the blind, right? But another thing, we're like especially being in the trades, like if you're a hands-on type person, like we're generally fixers. So if I see something broken, I fix it. Right? If it's around the house or it's your car or whatever, I see it broken, I'll just fix it. Well, sometimes we don't know how to fix stuff properly, right? And so you think you see all the things on the internet or the memes of like who did your brakes, right? Like they right? Well, you think of us trying to fix our own mental health without the correct tools or knowledge to do that, right? And maybe that's detrimental, right? Especially, some of the root problems that, lead someone to get into a space where they're not where they should be. We've got lots of people that work away, so they're away from their family. Some people maybe don't have the family resource to help address certain issues, right? And then there's all kinds of other things like divorce or finance or whatever, right? That could lead people to need to talk to someone aside from, their own small group or whatever, right?
Yep. Yeah, I like that analogy of not having the right tools, and it's not that guys don't recognize or can't recognize that they're struggling. It's like, I don't know what to do. It's like, I know I feel like crap and I don't like feeling like this. I want to be a better version of myself, but I don't know how to approach that. And so that's why it's really important to have a resource like ours. And it's like, don't worry, we got you. We can help you with this.
Yeah. And, we're seeing it every day. Obviously we're having this discussion. The discussion on mental health is coming more and more to the forefront, right? You're seeing it in every aspect of life. You're seeing it, depending on where you listen to your podcast or whatever. There's veterans, there's first responders, there's people in the trades. Like it's more and more people are talking about it because it's a thing. And it takes more people to say, hey, let's have this conversation with no stigma attached or no judgment, right? All of these things, right? That which some people would be, that's why they maybe wouldn't address it, right? Because they feel they're going to be judged by their peers or there's going to be something involved there, right?
Yeah. And that's what I was saying earlier. One of the big things that we want to do is normalize the fact that guys can suffer with these different challenges. It's normal. It's okay. Like sometimes life gets really tough. We suffer, we feel pain. That's part of the human condition. And there is help out there. And even when you're in the far depths of depression where it seems like there isn't any hope, there can be hope. And it's like there is help to get you out of there. And that's one of the reasons we actually have so many guys sharing stories on our site. We have the world's largest collection of real men sharing their stories, a lot of articles, some videos of it's like, hey, I went through this. Here's some of the things that help me, maybe they can help you.
Yeah.
And just knowing you're not alone, that other people have been through that tough space, they've come out on the better end, they understand.
Yeah, well, that's like for men, it's men, it's everyone, but being, a lot of us are pretty like logical about things, right? It's like I can see this individual went through the same or similar, whatever, like myself, and then you can put yourself in their shoes and say, okay, well, look, they got better, right? So one of the things with you were mentioned about the study. So like any study, you guys are collecting data, right? And so with that data, are you seeing patterns, things that kind of jump out at you that help you move forward with what you're doing here?
Oh, heaps. And in fact, just yesterday, I was sharing some findings with some colleagues. We did a survey of about 3,500 men, and I was looking at the topic of loneliness. Maybe I'll back up a little bit and tell you why. On our site, we have a lot of different self-checks, and one of them is a stress test. What are the things going on in your life that is causing you stress, difficulty that might be contributing to your depression, or maybe depression's making that worse? So there's about 20 different common stressors that are on this test. Well, of the 150,000 guys, I think, that have taken this since we released that particular self-check tool, there are 2 stressors that stand out by a long shot from everything else that are really prevalent amongst men. So more than half, and in fact nearly 60% of the 150,000 guys who have taken this have identified lack of purpose and meaning in life. That is the most prevalent stressor. And the other one's loneliness. And these are 2 issues that dudes don't talk a lot about. But it's so common. Like every guy who feels lonely feels like he's the only guy that's ever felt lonely. But you get 10 guys in a room, chances are 6 of them are feeling exactly the same way. So that was kind of the background of why I was looking at loneliness in this particular survey. We had 48% of the guys who took this survey, there's 3,500 men in that particular sample, indicating that they were very lonely. Not just a little bit, very lonely. And we had some other simple items in there. One was, do you feel loved? Do you feel loved? 25% of the guys say, I don't feel loved by a single person in my life.
That's quite the stat there.
That is
right?
sad.
When you stop and think about that.
Absolutely.
That's alarming.
It is. And another one is like, do you feel understood by at least one person in your life? 50% said no.
Wow.
Yeah. And what we found amongst those variables, not feeling loved, not feeling understood, was related strongly to loneliness. And loneliness, we know from other work that we've done, is actually a predictor of suicidality. So in essence, feeling like you don't matter to other people makes you more lonely. The more lonely you feel, the more disconnected, the more it feels like help isn't even out there, as if you don't matter anyway. Guys, think about suicide. Why am I here? Why bother? And that's really, really, it's sad and it's scary just how many guys feel that way. And we need to talk about that.
So we just went past Valentine's Day. So in your practice and, in your field of work, do you see after, Christmas, Valentine's Day, events like this that are kind of the social norm for people to be, loved or in a group setting or whatever, do you see, do you got data, I guess, that shows there's more, more people that are lonely or whatever after these kind of events?
In fact, and you actually see that on the ground, so to speak. Any kind of mental health service, they'll tell you that some of these key holidays, and the Christmas time is a real tough one for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. But even like you were saying around Valentine's, is kind of these social expectations of what you must be doing and you know, sharing love and joy with somebody. And a lot of people don't feel that, they don't have that. And so it's tough. Where we actually see a lot of kind of spikes, if you will, in traffic is at nighttime, regardless if there's a holiday. And it's like, here's where you can be literally alone, feel alone. You're not distracted by any other things, and you're left alone with your thoughts. And often these are really, really difficult thoughts. And then people start reaching out. And sometimes, you know, I'll give a little bit. Google Analytics is such a cool thing. When people come to our site after doing a search, we know what they're typing. And so the key search terms that tend to bring people to our site all have to do with suicidality.
Yeah. So you talk to touch on you know, people being more lonely, say in the evening or whatever. Some people's only community that they have in their life, you know, if they don't have family, or if they're, especially if they're away from family or friends, or whatever, their community oftentimes is work.
Yep.
So you look at the job site, you know, you might work with these individuals every day for extended periods of time. So this is your peer group. These are your friends or your comrades. You know, these are the people you discuss politics and hockey and stuff we were talking about earlier. But these are the people you know, this is your circle.
Yep.
And so you do your shift, you work hard, and then you come home. Some people go home to nobody there. You know, maybe they have a pet or whatever, but you know, some people they're going home. And so that's, you know, be kind to your friends on the job site, right? Because sometimes that's their only community.
Very often it is. Yeah. And, you know, even that aspect of loneliness, and you can be sort of socially isolated, meaning you physically don't have people around and alone. You can also have a lot of people around you and in your life and still feel alone.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you an example. We've had data from collected across colleges and universities in Canada from people going to all sorts of different post-secondary institutions. Some of them are very, very big, like UBC. There's 60,000 students. You think, how could young adults in these environments, when they have so many people around, feel lonely? Well, it's not a thing. It's a big thing. Yeah. It's a really big thing. And it's a perfect example of how you can be surrounded by lots and lots of people and feel absolutely alone. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have a group, or you don't have, and even some people's group or their social circle is a virtual one.
Yeah.
Right. So people are, you know, they have online friends or people that, you know, are physical friends of theirs, but they only really interact online. And even that has its own challenges, because, you know, it's easy to, you know, for people to not respond back, or, you know, you don't get that like, or you don't, you know, whatever, right? You don't get that message back. So, and that again, you could create your own situation, right? Like, oh, you know, why didn't someone respond to me? Or, you know, it's a weird dynamic that it's hard to pinpoint anything. So I imagine with all the data and the stuff you collect, that helps you, you know, move forward with your practice. Like you mentioned, you know, a couple different things that if those things all kind of intersect, that points you in a kind of down a path where, you know, maybe this person has a high, I don't know, for lack of a better term, high likelihood of being suicidal or whatever, right? So I'm sure, like, when you meet someone for the first time and you're kind of interacting, is that a kind of a question answer thing? Like, are you trying to, you know, collect a bit of data to see, you know, where this person falls on a scale? Or
not that explicitly. You kind of have that in your mind as you're engaging with the person, but you really want to know their story.
Yeah.
everybody has a story. And it might be even difficult for them to put the pieces of their story together in a coherent kind of way to form a narrative early on.
Yep.
But you provide them with that opportunity. You're with them to sort of co-construct that sometime.
Yeah.
But you can use what we learn through research as a way to help normalize certain things, to create openings, if you will. Like if they talk about working away from home a lot, and it's like, oh yeah, that must be tough. You know, a lot of men actually really struggle with loneliness.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh. Really? Oh, so that makes it okay to share that I too may be lonely if they know that other guys.
Yeah, there's actual stats to support
That's
that.
right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, that you know, for anyone that's listening to this, watching it, wherever you're not alone. You're not you're not the first person to feel what you're feeling. Someone else has been there. You know, the world, humans been around a long time. There's a huge population around, so you know, it's sometimes it's like anything. You know, it's I'll get it from like my wife. She'll joke with she'll say something and I'll be like, oh yeah, and then someone else will say it and I'm like, oh, that's like a good idea or whatever. And she's like, see, you just right. And I was like, no, it was a good idea when you said it too. I just didn't acknowledge it or whatever, right? But sometimes, you know, you just need to see it somewhere else or hear it somewhere else to go, okay, it just to make it click or whatever, right?
Some confirmation or validation that it's a thing. Yeah, it's so true, and it even relates to guys when they reach out. And so a lot of, like I said, a lot of guys do want help. They want to feel better, and even if they know where to access that help, they still can feel very tentative or reluctant about it. It's like maybe the doc that I'm seeing, the therapist, they're not really going to understand. They're not going to get me. Somehow my problems may be different or unusual. No. Yeah. They've heard it all. And it's like, no matter what you've got, they've heard something just like this. Don't worry. You're not going to shock them. They're not going to think that you're weird or different in some way. The reason they're there is because they want to help. And of course, everyone's story is unique, but whatever's embedded in that story, in one way or another, like the therapist, the doc, they've heard it.
Just like going to the doctor if you had like a rash on your arm and you're like, you pull it up, it's like, it's not the first time they've seen that. They're like, oh yeah, okay, totally it's true. Whatever, right? It's this, right? It's they've seen it before, right? So it's similar idea, right? So let's get into Heads Up Guys. Like if you know, is a website based thing, what, like if someone's listening to this and they're like, man, I really want to continue this conversation, you know, how's that set up? If someone they go to your web page and then they can get access to, you know, people like yourself or your colleagues, or what does that look like?
Yeah, there's a lot of facets to our resource. It is a digital resource. You know, in fact, you know, we're the world's leading mental health resource. So it's a very comprehensive resource. Lots of things to teach you about, like what is depression? What is anxiety? You know, simple things like that. You know, for many of your listeners, it's like, well, of course I know, but a lot of people don't. They know they feel like crap, but they don't know what that actually is. And so that's why we have a self-check suite, lots of different self-check tools to get guys actually thinking about their own mental health. And they take this, they get a score, and it's like, oh. And we give feedback based on the score or next steps to take. And it's like, I had no idea that was depression. I just felt this so long, and it just sort of became normal. Even though I didn't like it, it's just like, I didn't know what it was. So it's that part too. And then, you know, you're talking about connecting with help. We have a therapist directory. It's the world's only therapist directory that's intended for guys. Okay. And we have more than 1,500 therapists on there across our main market, so to speak, because we get global traffic. And so it's primarily Canada, US, UK. We have therapists in Ireland, New Zealand, Australia. So our hope is no matter where you are in those places, you can reach out and find some help. So we serve as that conduit to connect people who are looking for help and people who can provide that help.
Hey everyone, we normally don't do commercials during the podcast, but we're going to take a quick time out here. If you are watching or listening to this podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and you feel that this information is relevant to yourself or to someone you know, there are resources available in case you don't watch to the end. I don't blame you. You can circle back to this. So there are some resources available to you. So CERP, Construction Industry Rehabilitation Plan, has drug-free pain relief. They have some self-assessment stuff as well. So if you Google CERP, C-I-R-P, you will find their resource and the links that are attached. There's also the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you yourself or someone you know you feel could benefit from that, dial 988. That's a North American number. And there's also UA Canada National Wellness Center. So there's a phone number for this. So if you're a UA member in Canada, you can access these resources for yourself and for your family. Phone number for that is 1-833-778-2627. So please enjoy the rest of the podcast. And if you feel the need to, circle back to this, and there's help available if you need it. Thank you.
Well, it's nice that, people are probably like anything, they'll ease into it.
Yeah.
Right. So if they can go on your website and they can do the self-check.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, I recognize where I am. At least they've made a decision, they've made a choice, they've gotten some feedback.
Yeah.
And then with that feedback, they might go, okay, well, they did their thing. Now they've started to acknowledge it. Maybe that makes them feel, a little different than they felt prior to doing that self-check. And then maybe they take the next step, right? I suspect, being men the way we are, right? I can speak for myself, at least they're probably not going to just dive right into calling you, right? If they got those where they could, everyone has a phone in their pocket in this day and age, so they can jump on there and they can do this self-check, and it's 100% anonymous, right? It's not like after you do this, you're walking around with a bright red hat on every day or whatever. There's no, you do this to the comfort of your home. Like you say, it could be on the jobs, it could be in your truck, could be your car, whatever, right? At least you've gotten something from it. And that is 100% anonymous.
Yeah. And that's a really important point. That's so important for guys. That anonymity, that confidentiality, it is 100% that. And that's really important. And in fact, what you're scoping out is sort of the typical pattern, if you will. They'll do, a guy will come on, he'll do a self-check, kind of take the temperature, so to speak. It's like, okay. And, the feedback I'm getting says, I should do something about this. Yeah. Well, we point you to different articles. Here's how you can help yourself.
Yeah.
Because we understand guys want to try to sort themselves out first. And so let's give them the tools to do that.
Yeah.
And then there's also messaging about the importance of you bringing in other people when you need it. Yep. And so just what that might look like, how a friend or a colleague, family member, how to connect with them, or if you go have a family doc, and even what do you say? And that's a big thing for guys. It's like, I want help, but I don't even know how to start the conversation. Yeah. But just tell them you feel like shit and you don't know what's going on and need a hand. Yeah. Literally, that's all you need to say to get the conversation going. Yeah. And, I hear about therapy. I don't really know what that is. Well, we have articles that, sort of demystify what therapy is and what it looks like. Again, you're in control of that process. Yeah. It's not something that's done to you. This is something that you do for yourself. Yeah. So we really build that in, and it is a trajectory. Eventually, a lot of guys do reach out for that help, or maybe the help that they get within their existing social network, that might be fine too. But there's different avenues of help, and we try to point guys in those different avenues so that they're aware.
Yeah, that the kind of self-awareness portion that all of a sudden, if you think, okay, depression or whatever, like I would think generally it's a slow thing. All of a sudden it just becomes like your new standard operating procedure, right? You're just, you're cranky or you're grumpy but it's come slowly, right? You've ended up at a place, and sometimes just being able to, you take that self-test and you go, oh yeah, no, I am stressed, or I am lonely, or, whatever these things are, right? And then to touch on, like, you go to the doctor and your back hurts, you're like, my back hurts right here, or my knee hurts when I do this or whatever. That's easy to say.
Yeah.
And it's pretty black and white. To go in and be like, I feel whatever, I feel strange, or I feel, sad, or, some of these things, people might think, especially from like a men's standpoint, it's demasculating or whatever, right? I'm not supposed to feel sad, right? So instead of being sad, I'm just angry.
Yeah.
Right. Or whatever. Right. So, sometimes it's just being able to even just, you talked about earlier about just like the terminology, right? It's just being able to say, I'm feeling like this, you know, and it's, you whatever that is, it starts to open the conversation.
Oh yeah, like you mentioned that self-awareness, and that in and of itself, when you develop that self-awareness, that insight into your own mind through engaging in therapy, that is a skill. You have developed a skill, and until you develop it and start using it, you have no idea how powerful and useful that skill is. And it's like, oh, I'm feeling this way because of that. And it's like, oh, I can see how, why I reacted a certain way. It's because of this. And once you begin to understand your own mind like that, understand your emotions, you gain control of them rather than feeling like your emotions control you.
Yeah.
And guys get that. And like, therapy's hard. I tell guys, this is probably going to be the hardest thing that you ever do. It's like, what? Really? Like, we're just talking? Like, how's that hard? Every single one of them. It's like, wow, that's tough. But every single one of them also at the end, it's like, man, I wish I would have done this long ago.
For anyone that has children, as your children are growing up, especially when they're really, they're 2, 3, you can see their emotion, right? And you can see their frustration oftentimes. And a lot of time you can explain to them like, hey, you're feeling like this. You know, I understand your feelings, and I understand the situation as I see it, and potentially how you see it or how they see it. And so you can kind of react to their emotion and the environment. And it's oftentimes we can't do that for ourselves. Right. You can't look in the mirror and go, oh, like I'm hungry. Right. And maybe if I was hungry, I wouldn't be such a jerk or whatever. Right. But also, to just take a farther step back is to go, okay, this is the environment around me, and this is how it's affecting me. And then this is how I'm reacting to that.
Exactly.
Right. And so, that's take some self-awareness, like you're saying, right? But I see it with kids all the time, right? Or if I'm out somewhere and I see someone else's kid like laying on the ground having a tantrum or whatever, you're like, oh no, they probably just need something to eat, and then maybe whatever, right? But it's hard to do that for ourselves. And I think maybe even harder for men, arguably, that we don't want to be in touch with our emotions to that degree, or at least to show that to someone else.
Well, when it comes to emotions, I use this analogy in a way. It's like emotions carry data. And if you don't understand your emotions, you're missing a lot of the data that could help you understand yourself better, make better decisions, live a better life. And so in a way, that's what therapy kind of helps you do. It helps you understand that data. So you can make great decisions for yourself rather than making decisions that you regret. And that resonates with a lot of guys. And it's like, it's because, whenever we say, we talk about emotions or feelings, it's, that's a very soft kind of thing. Why do I want to do that? And it's like, because there's a lot of stuff in there that can help you. And in fact, not understanding it is often what's contributing to you feeling miserable.
With your practice and your data collection, what are some of the things you see with like drug or alcohol abuse playing into it? Like, do you guys have kind of stats on that, or is that something you've kind of had some awareness of, or what does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. Substance misuse is really, really common, and especially in some aspects of society and the workforce. And what I say is that no one ever sets out and it's like, you know what, I'm going to start abusing drugs or booze. No one does that.
Yeah.
No one ever intentionally goes out and starts, say, becoming an alcoholic.
Yeah.
There's always pain under there. Very often emotional, but fairly commonly physical pain too. Like guys on construction sites are working long, hard days. Their bodies ache after.
Yeah.
Well, what do? You have a few drinks after, you smoke something after, take some pills or whatever. And it's like, it makes the pain go away for just a little while. And then it's like, okay, well, that helped. And you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it without thinking. Or psychological pain, same thing. Gonna numb the pain for a little while, make myself forget about it, and then that becomes a thing. And then eventually, the behaviors that are associated with substance misuse, they become a problem unto themselves, and a big problem for many people. And so we tend to focus on the behaviors, the actions, and when things are really bad, we do need to rectify that. But very, very often, what gets missed and ignored is the pain that's underneath those behaviors.
The root cause.
The root cause. And that's so important that we need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. We see stuff from time to time. I've had friends that have died from, the drug use, right? And, you look back and there's always something to it, right? There's, like you say, I think if you polled anybody anywhere about their drug use or drinking or whatever, like you say, they didn't start one day and go, I'm set to end there, right? That's just not just not a part of it.
No.
So now with Heads Up Guys, so if someone's gone on there, they've taken a self-test, they've used all the tools that are on the webpage, and they go, okay, I think I want to talk to somebody, virtually or face-to-face. What does that look like?
They click on our button on the top right of the main page. Every page has this button. It's a therapist directory. So you click on that, click your location. If you're in Canada, click BC if you're in BC. And then cities, we then distill it down to cities as well as we can. And you click. And the therapists are located in that region. You can start reaching out to. But also recognizing if you're in BC, let's just say I said Kitimat, and it's like, okay, well, there's nobody there. Oh, Prince George, maybe that's a close. It doesn't have to be. It could be somebody in Vancouver because of the use of the digital technologies.
Same time zone.
Yeah, that's it. And so all of a sudden it opens up so many more possibilities. And there are a lot of possibilities. What I would say is if you do start reaching out for help, understand that there's more demand than capacity to meet the demand. So you're probably going to bump up against the issue where people are saying, well, right now I don't have any space. Don't be dissuaded by that. Keep going. Understand that this is something you want to need for yourself. Don't give up on yourself just because somebody's practice might be full. You're worth that effort. Make the effort to find somebody. And if you find somebody, it's really important to know that this is your time, your space. It has to work for you. Just because somebody might have an opening doesn't mean you're forever committed to staying with that person. Because the relationship that you develop with your therapist, that is the most critical thing that's going to affect how successful that treatment is. So if you're feeling there's not a good working relationship for whatever reason, even if you try to work with the therapist to have a better relationship, they don't get you, they don't understand you, it's not working, you can find somebody else. That is 100% okay. It's more than okay. That's what you need to do for yourself. This is for you. This is about you. You are in control of that process.
Nice. Yeah, that's the, you break your arm, you drive, there's a hospital somewhere, Google Maps, you're gonna find somewhere, you're gonna sit in the triage and you're gonna get fixed up, kind of thing, right? If you're in a space right now where you're having something that you think you need help with, here's a space. Just click on the link, seek out the help. You correct me if I'm wrong, but seek it out before it's probably mission critical, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Like I think if you're feeling something now, you know, it's like anything, like, you know, if your back's starting to hurt, seek help before it's really bad and you can't walk, or you know, whatever, right? Just to use that as an analogy. But if you know, if you're somewhere now and you're listening to this or whatever, and you're like, hey, you know what, I need to talk to someone, or I think I need to talk to someone, start seeking it out now.
Excellent advice, because this stuff doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just go away if you ignore it. It only gets worse.
Yeah.
So that is really great advice. If you think you might need some help, you do need help.
Yeah.
And so don't delay. And it's like, you know what? I don't like feeling like this, so I want to do something about it. So do it.
And with mental health, you know, so you seek out treatment. Is there like a maintenance aspect to it? Like, the reason I say that, Mark and I actually were out somewhere. We were talking with someone, and they said to me they're in recovery from drug and alcohol, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm in recovery." And I thought to myself, I'm like, "No, like you're recovered. Like you're you know, productive member of society. You don't use drugs." I'm like, "No, you're." But then it like occurred to me like a knucklehead. I'm like, "Oh no, this isn't something that's not just fixed and done.
Yeah.
This is something that has, you know, this is a journey that they're going to continue on, so that they don't maybe go back to that or whatever, right?" So would that be similar to?
It's similar. It's not quite the same when you're talking about substance use. But indeed, when you're, you know, if it's depression, anxiety, PTSD, and treatment in its formal kind of way is over, I always say my door is open. If you ever need to check in for whatever reason, just let me know. So there's always the opening to have that maintenance aspect, and it's going to look different for everyone. Sometimes there's sort of a graduated, you know, rather than every week, we go bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly. Sometimes it just stops and it's like check in. And I actually have a lot of guys check in, and I see that as a very good thing, because one of those skills that you develop with that self-awareness is recognizing when you're not feeling well and knowing what to do about it. So guys they'll reach out and say, you know, I'm going through a bit of a rough patch right now, could use some support because I don't want to go back to where I was. So again, nipping things in the bud. And so that kind of maintenance part is available. It's just going to look different for everyone. And the hope as you go through therapy and when you terminate, say, you know, I'm in a good place, we don't need to do this anymore, I feel confident. Part of me feeling confident to go out on my own is knowing that I can come back and check in with you so we can sort some things out if they need to. So you hope that the person develops, and that's the goal, to develop a lot of new life skills, skills about knowing oneself, what to do, and as they practice that through the process of therapy, they're just on a much better trajectory.
The skills they gain in this process are skills that they continue to hold forward.
That's it.
So, Heads Up Guys, how's that funded, or how's it what keeps that going, right? Because it seems like a really important resource. You know, do you guys get promotional stuff, or So
we're a program, UBC, by way of, you know, like I said, I'm a professor of psychiatry there. We developed this program. It's what's referred to as a donor-funded program. So we don't get funding from UBC to run the program. We have to go out into the community and raise funds. So 100% of our funding is from donors, from the public, whether it's individuals, we have some unions supporting us, businesses, family foundation, anything and everything, golf tournaments. You know, I see Dylan here, and and so that's how we operate. I wish we had more sort of defined and stable sources of revenue to help keep us going. We don't. We don't get any government funding, unfortunately. But nonetheless, you know, we're 10 years now. This is our 10-year anniversary. It's been growing and growing and growing. With more awareness comes more support from the public from a financial perspective. So that's
great to hear.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Like we get 10,000 people a week using our resource. It's unbelievable just how much this is connected with people and how many people are using it.
There's probably a higher demand than you're able to probably to you know, service, for lack of a better term. Well, anyone that's listening, if you're looking for somewhere to donate funds, reach out to Heads Up Guys, because I'm sure they could put those funds to good use.
We sure could. And every single dollar that's donated goes to the delivery and operations of our resources. There's no overhead. I don't get paid for it. We have a small but really, really good team. You know, we punch well above our weight class. And because we're a program of UBC, you know, UBC, you know, it's one of the world's top institutions, and it's such an important aspect of who we are and what we do. We're not just some hacks that say, hey, let's do. No, there's a lot of serious work that goes behind this, and you know, it's a proud aspect of our identity and character, and I think it provides people with a lot of confidence. And it's like the amount of work, the research, the clinical input, and really important input from people with lived experience. They are always front and center with everything that we do.
One question I have is, so mental health is mental health, regardless if you're male, female, or however you identify yourself. If someone else reaches into the program or reaches out, there's treatment available for them as well? Like, this isn't just a men's only.
Absolutely. Well, the focus is on men. There's nothing in there that isn't relevant to any human being. No matter who you are, how you identify, this stuff is applicable to you. And that's really important to understand. You know, we focus on guys because we want to really speak to guys to start changing that awful statistic that I shared earlier. And it's like, we need to speak to men. But you know, if you don't identify as a man but you need some help, you can still use our resource. It's really helpful.
Awesome. Well, anyone that's listening or watching it, you know, if you're a member of the hall, we have resources available everywhere throughout the hall. We have, you know, go on our webpage. If you're in the building, we got phone numbers up. If you need help, there's help there. Seek it out. If you're not in the hall or you don't have these informations, I'm going to speak out of turn for Mark, but Mark will probably put some links here for everyone to access help if they need it. There'll be a link in the show notes somewhere. Hopefully, Mark, thanks. But reach out to Heads Up Guys. So, you know what? Jump on your phone, hit the Google, hit your search, whatever, and start the conversation now. And even if you don't think you need it, just check it out. I mean, you might learn something. You might learn something that maybe you don't need, but maybe your friend or your colleague or, you know, your brother or whoever could benefit from, right?
Exactly. Chances are you know somebody that could benefit from it.
Well, we were just down south and we had this big conference and they were talking about like mental health and stuff, and they had a bunch of stats. And they, it's one in so many people have, or feelings of depression. They had all these stats. And when you look around a room that has a few hundred people in it, there's people in that room that fall under these stats. It's just, there's no matter what. So if you're on a job site or you have a crew of 20 or 30 people, chances are there's some people in there that could benefit from this information.
I guarantee it.
So,
yeah.
So, do you have any closing remarks? Anything?
No, that was fantastic. It was I really appreciate those remarks. I couldn't say it any better. If you think you need help, don't delay. Reach out, and then even if, as you said, even if you're doing fine, just know about the resource. Be familiar with it, because you very well likely know somebody who could use it. In fact, by sharing it, you might actually end up saving their life.
It's like doing basic first aid and learning CPR.
Yep.
You're not doing it on yourself.
Exactly.
Right? So,
Yep.
so, seek this stuff out and let's look out for one another.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, everyone, for watching the show. Please like and subscribe. And if you think you need help, seek it out. It's there. Thank you.